Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the channel. My name is Jamie Parry, and today we are going to be talking about everything stamp duty. So, for those of you not living on the moon or under a rock for the last 12 months, you'll know that there's been some pretty significant changes to the UK and the world with the COVID-19 virus. As a result, the government, in its infinite wisdom, has been chucking money at every sector they can and throwing lots of different changes into the law. And property has not been exempt from that. You may have noticed that there was a stamp duty holiday, but that is all set to change. And how will that affect you? Well, watch the video to find out. Welcome, guys, and like I said in the intro, today is going to be all about stamp duty. Now, I must confess, I was actually doing my research for a different video, which I'm not going to post until next week, all about how much money do I need to buy a house. And I started delving into it and looking at the different stamp duty laws and how they're changing, and I thought this is a video all on its own. It does actually take some getting your head around because I was confused. Had to text John, the lawyer, had to go on about 4 different websites just to make sure what I was saying was actually correct because they don't make it easy. They've got different stamp duty and land transaction tax calculators, but that does not necessarily help when there is a change coming. So, without further ado, let's firstly look at what the stamp duty rates are in England. Ooh, come on to Wales in a minute. As of April 2021, if you buy a house that costs between 0 and £125,000, you will pay zero in stamp duty. Buy a house between 125 and 250, you will pay 2% of the purchase price between those figures. Okay, so if you buy a house for 250 grand, then you will pay 2% of £125,000, which is the gap between 125 and 250. Stamp duty then starts to work its way up. So it goes then the next threshold is 5% if you're over 250. And if you're lucky enough to be buying a house at over £925,000, then you will pay 10% stamp duty. First time buyer rules differ, and I must stress that those rates there were for people who are just buying a residential house. Okay, so they haven't got any additional property, and that is just an upgrade or a buy of a residential house. If we are looking at first time buyers, so you're a first time buyer and you're looking to purchase your home after the 1st of April 2021, and that means completing on your home after the 1st of April. So if you start your transaction now, in all likelihood, you're not going to complete until after then anyway, because solicitors are absolutely stacked. If you're buying a house up to £300,000, the good news is for first time buyers, you can claim a relief on that and 5% stamp duty land tax on the proportion from 300 to 500,000. So you actually get a bit of a discount there. And in all likelihood, unless you're very lucky, your first house is going to be under that £300,000 mark. If you're loaded and you're buying a house over £500,000, then you follow the same rules as everybody else. Okay, let's move on then to England if you have already got another property. Now, this also counts if you haven't finished selling your main residence. So you're in the middle of selling your house and you've already bought the one you're moving into, but you've still got yours, then you will pay the higher rate, which you can claim back within a certain period. All right, so we've got another house, we've got a little buy to let property, or we're going to hold on to our home and we're buying a new one. The first 0 to £125,000 now creeps up to 3%. The next 125 up to 125 to 250, we are paying 5% for that privilege, and 250 right the way up to 925k, we pay the princely sum of 8% for that. So as you can see, things start to creep up quite nastily if you've got an additional property. which is why it makes a lot of sense now. If you're buying additional properties, doing buy to let, then you need to have them in a company name. Essentially, is a 3% surcharge added on each time. Now let's move over to Wales, Croeso i Cymru. The law is a little bit more favourable in Wales if we're looking to buy a main residence. We are free of stamp duty all the way up to 180k, so 0% there. But when we move up from 180k to 250, we are at 3.5%. From 250 to 400, we're at 5%, and 400 to 750, 7.5%. Again, the first time buyer rules differ and you are eligible for relief or a discount on those. This is where it gets more harsh for residents of Wales, and which I'm pretty disappointed about this, Mark Drakeford, to be honest with you, because he recently changed the law in December 2020 so that now if you've got an additional property and it's under 180k, you actually pay 4% for that privilege, which, if you ask me, is pretty disgusting for people who are just trying to make their way in the world. 180k up to 250, you're then paying 7.5%. From 250 to 400, 9%. Rockets to 11.5% from 400 to 750, and then 750 to 1.5 mil. You're paying 14% for properties if you already have an additional property. So let's look at a real life example then for that. So if we're buying a house for 250 grand, you've got 4 different people, there's you and your 3 clones, you're buying a house for 250 grand, okay? If you buy this property in England, the stamp duty will cost you 2.5k. Fair enough, it is what it is. Your main residence, 2.5k. If you're buying that in Wales, it will cost you 2,450. So a princely saving of 50 quid. Not much difference there. Now let's look at the additional properties. And this is where it starts to get a little bit harsh for a Welsh resident. If you've got an additional property in England and we're buying that 250 grand house, then we would pay stamp duty of £10,000. Yes, an extra 10 grand for a 250 grand property. Outrageous. However, if you are in Wales in exactly the same scenario, you will pay £12,450 in stamp duty. £12,450 does not really give you much incentive in Wales to buy an additional property unless it is in a limited company. Draw your own conclusions on that one, guys, but it doesn't look great to me. I hope that's gone a little way to explaining stamp duty. If you want to watch this video back about 20 times just to ensure that you get your head around it, then be my guest. So thanks very much, guys. Please like and subscribe. As always, it's much appreciated. But a big upsurge in followers over the last month. It doesn't go unnoticed. So thanks very much again, and take care of yourselves.